Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Talking Tradesman. With me today, I have a very special guest. I have none other than Mark Marshall from Lawn Stripes and Hedges.
How are we doing?
We're good, mate. We're good. Mark, massive thank you for coming in today to have a chat with me.
No, I appreciate it, mate.
Let's talk, mate.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about you. So, mate, obviously your journey, your platforms are huge.
Yeah.
You just told me off camera that you're now full-time on social media. The projects you're doing in terms of the YouTube work you're doing are absolutely incredible, working with people, giving people free gardens.
Yeah.
So I want to find out all about that. But I also want to find out how you got there, where it started, how it began. Probably go back as far as you're comfortable going back.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the person behind Lawn Stripes and Hedges, behind the socials, get to know you a little bit, what your inspirations were and why you started doing what you're doing.
I think so. I left school, started landscaping as an apprentice, as well as doing mechanics. So I used to kind of mix between the two.
Okay.
I wasn't really sure. For me, landscaping was a kind of a gap filler. My passion back in the day was mechanicking. Because of my two closest friends, Danny and Chris, they were both mechanics, so you kind of follow in their footsteps, and I really did enjoy it. So I did my time. I did 2 years landscaping, weekends, evenings, days that I weren't in college, days that I didn't have, because I only used to do 2-3 days in college and had 2 days off. So I didn't have an apprenticeship mechanics at the time. So I kind of just fluttered between the two jobs, as well as evenings working at UPS. I've always been a grafter. I've always liked money. That's the truth of it, is money. I've always been because I've come from a pretty poor area in Salford.
I was going to say, mate, normally...
Yeah.
Salford.
Salford, yeah.
I was going to say, normally, mate, that graft that's installed somewhere.
Yeah.
So if we take it back a bit, like you say, you come from a pretty poor area. Like, how was that? How was like school, childhood, that kind of stuff?
I think everyone has their own tough story. I think mine's pretty similar to most of them. Single mum most of my life. She struggled with alcohol, so as well as kind of her own mental kind of problems. Like when she was on it and lovely, she was literally the nicest woman in the world. But then when she was angry, she was the worst person. Yeah. So as a kid, you kind of escape that and get out, and you end up getting in trouble, going down the wrong road. And
you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got older brothers and older brother and older sister. Now I've also got a younger brother, Craig, as well. Okay. But there was a bit of a gap between Paul and Claire, who are quite a bit older than me. To me and Craig, but then Craig had a dad, whereas I didn't. So when Craig would go off at weekends to his dad, I'd be kind of left on my own with my mum. My brother and sister was old enough to move out, so it was kind of just me. So
what age is that roughly, Mark?
That was, how old was I then? Well, I'd say from I remember our Claire moving out when I was probably 10.
Oh, okay.
10-ish. But then I ended up moving in with my sister, which probably wasn't the brightest idea, because she just said, just do what you want. So
I can resonate, mate. The reason I'm asking those questions is I had a sort of similar experience, but in reverse. So my mum and dad split up when I was 8. I stayed with my dad, but he was a drinker. Right. So I've lived that life, mate.
Yeah.
I've got a younger sister, but my younger sister went off and moved in with my mum, and I stayed with my dad.
Right.
So yeah, I can resonate on that kind of.
I think growing up, and there'll be a lot of kids out there right now, or younger people that watch this, that probably hate the situation that they're in. But I actually don't regret any of it. I don't regret any of the nastiness. My mum, not having a dad, not being able to read and write, and teachers standing me up in class and saying, read this book, and knowing that I can't read, and the embarrassment that I went through. Because for me, that's made me who I am right now. And it takes a long time to get to that point. And then we'll be talking about this now, and some young kids will be thinking they're talking a load of shit. But then when they get to our age, they'll be like, mate, maybe there was some truth in it. I think as a kid, you just think you're invincible, and you can kind of
Yeah, mate, it's weird, isn't it? Because I think when you're a kid, you immediately adapt to your environment.
Yeah,
So whatever you're in just feels like normal. It feels like
yeah,
that's how it should be. But the reality is it's not. And a
no,
lot of the time, it's only when you get to adulthood and you look back. I know for me, one of the big things was having my own kids. Have you
yeah, yeah.
got
I've got a
kids?
little boy. Yeah,
Right. Was having my own kids. And kind of as they grew up through the years, they would hit certain points. Like my son would get to a certain age and I'd be like, oh, Christ, man. Okay, so he's 10 now. Well, the environment I was living in when I was 10.
well, that is a good
And
coffee.
I told you it was a good coffee, mate. Give a big shout out
Yeah,
to the guys next door if you ever come in for a recording.
yeah.
Guys next door do incredible coffees.
Sorry, mate, to interrupt. See how bad my ADHD is.
Mate, it's worth a mention.
It
It's
is.
a good coffee.
When I was in Florida with Chicken Man, do you know Chicken Man?
I don't,
Jonah,
mate,
follow
no,
him.
no.
He's literally a legend. Like,
Why is he called Chicken Man?
so when he first started landscaping, or not when he first, but he got a job. He's been through a rough time. If you ever get a chance to get him on, he'd be a great guest because he's like the classic tradesman.
Is he one of your team?
No, I just know him from socials.
Can I get you to pull that mic back a little bit?
Oh,
Because the red light's flashing at me over there.
That's me because I'm
yeah, you can move it wherever you want. Let's pause there a moment to say a massive thank you to our headline sponsors, Zinsser. Now, I am over the moon that Zinsser have got on board to support the Talking Tradesman podcast because genuinely, we use Zinsser products on virtually every job we do in my business as a painter and decorator. Zinsser are a renowned and established brand. They do things like primers, sealers, and stain block coatings, and also things like the mold and mildew resistant finishes that they produce, such as the Perma White in front of me here. Zinsser are well known for their stain block and adhesion primers, such as Bin and Bullseye 123, and their new product, the Bin Aqua. Zinsser's products are well known for their high performance and ease of use. They cater to both the professional and DIY market, and the Talking Tradesmen are once again over the moon to have sponsored with Zinsser as our headline sponsor. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, so I met him through social media through a tough time that I was having, and he backed me, and I thought, why is he? And I inspired him to go on social media and start doing stuff, and then we've just naturally kind of, come together, and we do like the odd project together, and we're doing something next week together. But we was in Florida, and he said he's always wanted to see me in real life because I'll be talking, I'll go, I've got look at that on my nose, and he said your retention's terrible. You'll be talking to someone, you go, no way, where'd you get that light from? And you'll be talking to him about his mum dying or something like that. But it's just my ADHD, I suppose. But again, it just takes you off on a tangent, doesn't it?
What age did you get diagnosed ADHD?
So when I was in school, I was just classed as a naughty kid. So there was no.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times.
There was no. I've been to the doctors recently. I've done loads of like you do them online tests and stuff. But there's a guy that I follow now, who talks about ADHD. He's massive, and he literally every time he's talking about it, he's talking about me, like the way I am with my missus, the way I am with other people, the why I'm now doing the social media because I want that endorphin hit. Like I want to be liked all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the true thing with like the attention deficit. They call it a disorder, but I tell you what, I call it a superpower now.
Do you know what, mate? 100%. One of the term that I like is neurodivergent because it translates as brain different.
Yeah.
And that's all it is because there's more and more people that seem to be
coming
diagnosed
out of it,
or categorized as ADHD.
Yeah.
A lot of them are people in the public light.
Yeah.
But it does give you like that superpower or super focus. Do you have a lot of hyper focus on things?
Yeah, so like with the social media, we get hundreds of messages of people saying, how's he done it? Like, give us your tips. They all want a trick. They all want the quickest way in. And my missus deals with all the social media now for me, inboxing. And I have heard Jack and Rob on comments. I've tried to distance myself from it because of if I read a comment that's negative, it can put me in like a depressive state for weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it takes me a while to get out of it. So for me, I just focus on the positives, and I've left them to deal with that. But what was that question again?
I don't know, mate. We were talking about ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
So the prime example.
Yeah, a prime example of it. But so I've always
I think I was saying about what
that was
age
it, the superpower,
the superpower of hyper focusing on things.
Yeah. So with starting social media and losing my best mate to suicide, I needed something for my brain to focus on, because if it doesn't focus on something like a goal, I literally get in the most darkest points ever. Like, I can be like what everyone to the face of it thinks he's the most happiest guy in the world, and inside I'm eating myself alive, thinking there isn't a future. I can't see myself in 10 years. But that's why I've always got to have a goal. And when Danny died, I could feel the darkness coming over me. I could feel it like a cloak, and I was like, I've got to focus on something.
Can we just can you explain that one a little bit, mate? I mean, I don't mean to push on a painful subject either, but when did this happen? And
2 years ago.
And that was the start of your social media?
Yeah, so there was like a lot of different reasons why I started social media. There was like a customer complained that we blocked a grid up. So I was like, well, I'm going to start recording stuff. So that was one of the reasons why. Then also I wanted to show the customer what they got from us as Lawn Stripes and Hedges from a I used to just send them the edited kind of videos that we'd done.
Okay.
I'd put before and after pictures on social media. I'd always done that in like the 6 years I've done landscaping as a business. But then when I lost Danny, I lost my little brother lost his dad, which I classed as a dad. At the same time, then my nana went. So that in all that kind of period, my brain was like, you need a goal, you need a goal. So then I was just like watching motivational videos. That's where I come across Gary V.
Okay.
And Gary V was like, social media, social media, social media. That was a great action. I bet you thought he was sat here then, didn't you?
Absolutely, mate. I was taken away for a minute just then.
So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to start putting the videos that I've created. I'm just going to put them on social media. And then to kind of mask not thinking about Danny, I just dived everything into social media. That was in 2021. We started bits at the end of 2021, so like November 2021. And then we went on holiday January 2022 to Mexico. And in the 3 months I'd really pushed social media, someone recognized me. I was like, are you the guy that does the lawns, the mowers? Because I used to do loads with Alec mowers.
The first time you ever got recognized?
Yeah, that was the first time, yeah. And I was like, then your ADHD starts going and you start thinking, And then I said to my missus, for the next 12 months, I'm going to go back and we're going to give this social media everything. I don't think she realised how much everything meant. Like every minute I got in from work, I'd quote, come back, edit, post, social media, comments, inboxing, in the bath again. And it was like a repeat cycle for a full year. And then we started to grow and grow and grow and grow. But then more things come on top of you, like brand deals and loads of other commitments start coming on, and you meet people, and then your time gets stretched and stretched and stretched further. And then that's when, beginning of this year, I was like, I can't. What actually made me think was I was in a meeting with Makita to sign with Makita, and there was so many people around the room, and there was like, what do you do as a job? What do you do as a job? And when it got round to me, I was like, I do all their job in one person.
Yeah.
And there was like 5 or 6 of them. I thought, I've got to expand, otherwise I'm going to burn myself out.
Yeah.
So that's when I took my first member of staff on.
It's a big jump, isn't it? We'll get into that, mate. I want to talk about all that. I want to explore that, but I feel we've missed 10 years.
I know. So let's jump back into the...
We've gone
let's reverse.
That's it. Yeah, let's pull it back a few steps, man. So with the naughty kid at school thing.
Yeah.
How, like, did you come out of that with qualifications, without qualifications?
Do you know what? I surprisingly did all right, because in year 10, something clicked and I was like, I need to focus here, because I'm going to end up being like, on the dole for the rest of my life. And there was one teacher I used to have, all the way through school, I had a TA, a teacher and assistant, with me at all times. Mostly they said because of my behaviour, but then when they realised that I had dyslexia and I couldn't read, she kind of just every single lesson. So she'd go from lesson to lesson with me, and she kind of like chipped away at me through the year 7, year 8, year 9. I don't know what you call it now, but is it the same?
7, 8, 9, year 11?
Year 11 finish. Yeah. So she kept eating away at me, and by year 10 she'd got me, and she was like, "You really need to focus." But by that point, I was like, fuck, like no matter how hard I try, I can't read. Like I can read, I can get by, like I can read your sign, I can get basic words. Like I'm not that kind of that bad with it. But when you stick a complex word in, no matter how hard I try, like tradesman, for instance, If I look at that now, I could probably tell you how to spell it. But then if by the time I get home, I wouldn't be able to spell it.
Right. Okay.
I could maybe type it out on my phone,
Yeah.
but I couldn't. So I was always like, I was super embarrassed about it. My brother, Craig, is like a fucking genius. Like, he's so bright. So I'd go home and my mum would be like, "What have you learnt today, Craig?" And he's like, "I can retain 20 words in my mind." I'm like, "I can't even spell cat." So like, there was like, and always like a bit of like a rivalry between us. But I love my brother to death. But when we was younger, it was always kind of, we've pitched against each other. So then I used to think growing up, and you'd meet like these idols that you'd reach out to, you'd see, because I didn't have a father figure in my life, I'd try and get that inspiration from a boss or someone at work or a friend. Like Danny, who he was my biggest inspiration because he...
So was Danny your best mate from school, like growing up?
Chris,
kind of
his younger brother, was he's still my best mate, but
okay.
Chris... so I was really in a naughty era till about year 9.
You still in Salford at this time?
No. Yeah, I was at this stage. Yeah, I moved when I was 18 from Salford.
The Salford, I mean, I've got experience of Salford from a slight... I'll just throw it out there. I worked as a bailiff.
Oh, okay,
years,
yeah.
And we used to work around Salford.
I recognised you.
And literally, mate, I mean, I had people try and kill me up there. So
it's bad, yeah. It's dog eat dog.
Yeah.
But it's not like it got such a bad rap. And when I moved from Salford to Warrington when I was 18 and people found out I was from Salford, they would naturally just think, before knowing me, he's a bad lad, he's a scrapper, he's this, he's that. Yeah. I mean, I was, but not just because I was from Salford, it was because of what I was brought up in, my environment.
Yeah.
But now it's a beautiful place. I mean, where I'm from, still pretty rough, but it's... It never phased me being from there. Like, if you said anyone back in the day who's from Salford, it was like, oh, like, but it's just a place. Every area has its bad parts.
Mate, absolutely everywhere. It was one of the things, because when I did that job, we used to work all around the country, and one of the things I discovered doing that job is that every area has that part.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Funnily enough, because one of the things that always surprises people, one of the worst estates, or it used to be, I mean, we're talking maybe 15 years ago now, but it used to be one of the worst estates in the country was in Oxford.
Yeah.
A state called the Blackbird Leys,
right,
which was notorious, like gun crime and all sorts. Yeah. And when I was doing that job, it was one of the worst places in the country. But normally when you talk about Oxford, you think Oxford Uni.
You think positive, yeah.
Architecture, it's really nice.
Well, we had a couple of like... they call them gangsters, don't they? But like, there was a couple of like big gangsters in our area that pretty much controlled everything and wouldn't let violence get too bad.
Okay.
It was only when one of them got killed it went absolutely mental. But other than that, it always got kept in check. And then we was quite close to the Hells Angels, and they wouldn't really let anything get out of hand. Although they say they're a crime organisation, if anything got too bad, I mean, I've been clipped around the ear loads of times off the Hells Angels for doing something I shouldn't be doing. Because I was like... Again, now I know it was the ADHD, but as a kid, I needed that thrill. So it was like, starting off hedge hopping. I don't know if people even do that anymore, but
probably not, mate.
Hedge hopping, knock a door run, like they were our staples back then. We used to like tie string lines to people's knockers and like knocking from miles away.
You're 37, I'm 40, so we're not too far apart. But mate, our child generation is so different now.
Yeah.
I mean, my lad's 17.
Yeah.
But obviously they've got all the technology,
my
the computers now. Well. So they'll sit there now playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Rather than knock door run.
Well, I was playing Kirby outside my house a couple of years ago near lockdown.
What a game.
And like we had people stopping in the street saying, "Are you playing Kirby?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, let's bring it back. It should have been an Olympic sport. I got really good at it. I'll be honest. I was betting at one stage. Like, we putting quids in.
Mate, it's that nostalgia. Yeah. I saw some kids doing it a while ago. I can't even picture where now. I was going to work somewhere, and I actually stopped and looked, and it was like...
It makes you happy, doesn't it?
Remember that.
I wouldn't mind. It's a sick game. Like, when I was explaining it to my lad, and I was like, right, we play this game, and then the rules were, I mean, sure, people in the comments and that'll let us know, but our rules were, you'd throw it across. If you got it back and caught it, you'd go halfway until you missed. So you'd go halfway, you throw it, and then if it missed, but then if they caught the ball and you run back before you got on your curb, if they hit you with the ball, they took all your points. That's how we played it. But then my missus played it completely different. So I'm like, So when Logan was doing it and my lad and he was halfway, I'd throw it back and I've got your points. And she's like, you can't do that. They're not the rules. So I wonder if there was an international Kirby rule.
I don't know, mate. I think if anybody knows, are there any official Kirby rules?
Yeah.
Or is it just regional rules?
Yeah,
You know
regional
what I mean?
finals.
Yeah.
Watch it go massive now after this podcast. Everyone's like,
it's like any game, though, mate. Isn't it? Like I found that we're playing pool across the country. Everyone plays.
has a
You've
different
got like
rules.
American rules, English rules, and people play by different things.
Yeah.
Didn't know that would apply to Kirby, but apparently it does.
Yeah.
So.
I've just realised where this doesn't happen, but I've realised where we left that conversation.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank this episode's sponsor, Wooster. For over 170 years, Wooster have crafted the highest quality paint applicators and accessories in their home of Wooster, Ohio. Wooster produce premium equipment that provides a brilliant finish and stands up to the hard work that professional decorators do in their job every day. Their top quality tools include the Gold Edge and Silver Tip brush range. They also produce a wide range of rollers and innovative tools such as the Lockjaw, the Pelican paint kettle, their whole range of rollers and innovative tools such as the Dust Eater. These are all tools that we use in our business on a weekly basis. Wooster's dedicated to better results with less effort. Thank you to Wooster for supporting the Talking Tradesman podcast. Let's get back to the conversation.
Chris. So I was walking home from school one day and Chris was repainting cars, toy cars. He was stripping them, drilling the little nib out, taking the plastic out, spraying them a different colour and building it all back up. And I was like, that's pretty sick, that. I said, and I just went up to him and said, what are you doing there, mate? And he was like, because he knew how naughty he was, he was a bit timid. He was like, no, am I going to try and rob him? But he was like, oh, I'm doing this. And then he was also building a car, an actual car, not a Nova. He would think he was putting another engine in it or something. And I just thought, that's the type of guy I want to not spend the rest of my life with, but that's the type of the guy that I want to be with, like every day. Like he was just mesmerizing. And then Danny, his older brother, was Danny's older brother. He was just a part of the family. So because of how I was all in with Chris. So like he was my best mate from day one, and like we went everywhere together. He passed his test. We passed him pretty close to each other, but he bought a Vauxhall Nova. We'd both put money in for his fuel and we'd go out together. Like we was literally ride or dies. And then as you get older, and I wanted to move away from Salford, I met a bird, or a girl. I met a bird and I moved to Warrington. And then kind of naturally, just like life, you start kind of separating a little bit. And I just missed him. So I drove from Warrington back to Salford. But you'd pull up outside of Ted's and one of them was always there. So I pulled up and Danny was there, his older brother. And Danny was like, fuck me, you've gone massive, because I hit the gym. I used to be tiny, like... I'll try and insert a picture here of what I used to look like. And when I come back to Salford, I was a different human being. I was taller, muscly, like I used to hammer steroids, so like sunbeds. I was a different person. So then Danny was like, fucking hell, like, where's little Mark gone? And me and Danny just kind of started our friendship again. And then Danny become kind of my closest mate. And Danny was going through a bit of a tough time mentally, didn't know what to do with his missus at the time, going through a bit of a shit situation. So I thought, you know what? I've created a bad life for myself in Warrington. I'm going to move to Bolton, out of the way of everyone, and start again. And I moved for Danny to be close to him. And then I lived in Bolton for 4 or 5 years. And then I got a job at the Superbike factory in Macclesfield, and the journey was just too far. And I said to Danny, I'm going to have to move, mate. It's just... The commute's killing me. And so I moved to then Macclesfield, where I'm at now. And in that period of living in Mac a year, Danny's just mental health just dropped. He'd met the wrong girl, started doing crack. 40 years old, never really touched drugs. He'd had drugs in his, as a kid, like pills and stuff. But never really. He wasn't a cocaine lover or anything like that. And then He
What was he doing at the time? Still
mechanicking, yeah, truck mechanic, yeah. And Chris rang me and said, Danny's something's up with Danny. And I was like, so I rang him, and he was like in some. We've always like kind of vowed to each other, like if one of us need each other, you always pick the phone up. You never not pick the phone up. You know, if it's good, if you girls sometimes don't get on, and we've always said like, if we're there, we pick the phone up. And he picked the phone up, and he was in some crap den, and I was like, Danny, what the fuck? Where are you? And I went mad. And I drove down the next day, and he'd lost loads of weight, got some weird new weight. It was like a different person.
Yeah.
So all the family put him into rehab. He didn't stay there for long, and then he got off it, and then he was starting to get better again. And every time I'd ring, he'd ask me for 10 quid, 20 quid. And I was like, Danny, mate, you're Danny. You're Danny. Like, you're like the top of the food chain of all our friends, and you're asking me for a tenner. I'll give you a tenner, but don't lie to me. And he was like, no, it's not for drugs. It's not for drugs. He was going on about his gas and electric, and I'm thinking, from being from Salford, I've seen it. I've seen it growing up. I'm not blinded to it. I knew what was going on. Like my girl best mate Zoe, her sister went through it. Like, so I'd seen it all close to home. And I said to him, Danny, I can tell. And then when Chris rang me again and said, Danny's done it, he's tried to kill himself, I went to the hospital, and I was so angry. I was so angry at him because a selfish thing, you and your mates, and you don't think about what they're thinking. You just think, you've made me feel like shit, but you don't think about what they're feeling like. It's just anger. And then when I walked in and seen Chris, I just cried because obviously it was so close, and all my childhood memories have been with Chris and Danny. All the fun we had as kids, like the stuff we got into, was all because of kind of Chris and Danny. So when I walked into the hospital and all these people I didn't even know, and I'm like, who are these people? And then Ted was there, but Ted, Danny's dad's, a little bit of like he's just wants to make everyone happy. So then when people saying, that these new mates that Danny's made and these new people that were around him, it really annoyed me. And when they said, look, it's bad, do you want to go in and see him? So I went in and seen him, and he was just like, it wasn't Danny, but then it was. And then I was like, again, still angry at him, like, what the fuck have you done, mate? Like, you don't think about what other people are going through. And it's with mental health. Mental health is a very touchy subject with a lot of people, and a lot of people just don't like talking about it. A lot of people, like, if you're feeling good and someone comes at you and says, mate, I'm feeling pretty shit, and you're feeling good, you don't really want to speak to them about it because you're feeling good, and they're going to speak to you and it's going to make you feel shit. But that's because they suffer with it as well. Like, for some people that don't suffer with mental health, they're the people that we really need to speak to, because they can be for me, I think as well, because I think they can be a really good person to speak to. But if two people with mental health problems are speaking to each other, it can be volatile sometimes.
I think that's because there's a thing there, Mark, where there's a perception when we talk to people, particularly about mental health, that if I were to turn around to you and say, right, I'm struggling with my mental health today, mate, I've had this go on, that go on, feeling a bit down, this, that, and the other, you would sit there and kind of think, you've just put that pressure on me to fix it.
Yeah. And I suffer with it as well. So it's kind of you being scared.
The reality is, though, that what we need to sort of all recognise, really, is that when somebody brings a mental health issue, as it were, up to us, you don't have to fix it.
No.
You've just got to listen. And that's sometimes that is it. Just listen, be aware. If you can offer advice that's reasonable, then fine. But it's not your responsibility.
No.
You're not passing on that weight. And I think that is why people get scared of talking, because they feel like if you were to impart upon me now that you're struggling right now, that resposibility is on
yours,
me. And if you do anything, then that would be my fault for not preventing it.
Yeah.
So it is. There's a big stigma around talking about it, mate. It's one of the things I'm trying to break down.
I think that there should be. I think if you are struggling with mental health, genuinely struggling, because what there's a perception of as well is people online. I know people that will break up with a bird and they'll do stuff for attention. What annoys me is when people publicly say, I'm going to kill myself, and they do 5 statuses about it. you can tell the difference between wanting attention and someone like my mate Danny, who we didn't. If I fucking knew he was going to do that, I would have. I mean, everyone says they'll stop him, but he just did it because he didn't want to suffer anymore. That's the difference. And when you get to the point like that, I've got about 10 people that message me, and they'll say, I had one this week, and they'll say, do you know what, Mark? I feel like fucking giving up, mate. And I'll say, what do you mean, mate? You're fucking smashing it. I literally watch your stuff and it makes me proud. And them getting that message, they're like, sorry about that yesterday, mate. I was just in a bad place. That's the conversations we really need to be having.
Definitely.
100%. But I do think that our industry is lacking someone to train people on how to listen. Because like you've just said, there's a lot of people that say, I'm struggling with mental health, and they'll impose on you and give you all the wrong information. I do think there needs to be a better system where, like Rob's doing from My Mental Health.
Yeah, Rob's doing a great service, mate. It's one of the. I had this conversation yesterday with somebody where I was asked, "Why do you think the construction industry is struggling so much?" I said, "Well, the problem is there's nobody taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Because if you look at other industries, other demographics of work, you'll have companies now. It's quite common now that people will appoint. Say you've got an office block, there'll be an appointed mental health first aider.
Yeah.
There'll be somebody trained up within the organisation to be there as like a mental health responder, or even like occupational therapy, things like that. Doesn't exist in our world,
no, it doesn't,
particularly amongst the self-employed.
And I think it's social media now is doing great for our industry because what it's becoming is you're becoming more powerful than the people that are making these decisions, these companies. So these people like Kev out there, the Home Improvements, myself, Green Genie, that are getting these mega followings that have got more of a social media presence in the companies that they're working with. So what's happening now is the industry's changing. Like, we're not the bottom of the food chain anymore. I feel like when I know a South African lady, and a landscaper in South Africa is the bottom of the food chain.
Really?
The absolute bottom. When I told her, like, she spoke to me like shit when I first met her. She was a customer years back. And I said, look, I don't speak to me like that, love. Go and find someone else. But then when she'd realised how good I was and people saying like what I was doing, she rang me back saying, I apologise. And she went, look, I'll be straight with you. Like, landscapers or gardeners in our world, the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a similar thing, because people employ us to do a job. They kind of think that they own you. And I think that's changing a little bit now, because even when before social media, I was in the mindset of, I've been an area manager for Man United. I've worked for City. I've worked for Subway, Screwfix, B&Q, big corporations that put a lot of time and energy into me, that have sent me on loads of management courses on how to treat people. When I then started my own business, it was, I'm on my journey to become a great landscaper. I want to inspire people. Nothing to do with social media. I want to make people happy from walking out in their garden and going, this is mint. Because that's what made me happy as a kid, with my nana, going out and spending a bit of time within the garden. That was my happy memories as a kid, through all the shit that we went through. So for me to be able to do that for other people, that's kind of my driving force. So I'm not going to let someone speak to me like shit because I'm doing a job for them.
100%, mate. You never should.
You shouldn't. But I think that's the perception of I wouldn't say the general public, because that's unfair to say, because there's a lot of beautiful people out there. But, brickies, plasterers, because they're bringing you into their home and paying you, they kind of think that they own you. So I think now with social media, people like the pool guy, he's killing it. He's just won the award, best content creator for TikTok award. He cleans pools for a living. Like, people would think that's like, he cleans pools, he's a cleaner. But the reality is now he's some super juggernaut in the social media world. He's now putting himself in a position where he'll go to these parties like I'm privileged to go to now. And you stood alongside Brad Pitt and Lewis Hamilton, and you stood in the vicinity of all these great Gordon Ramsay, and they stood from me to you, and I'm thinking, I'm a landscaper. But
Do you know what though, mate? Do you not think that this is like, because the thing with the trades is that there's more people going out and have been for a long time than coming in. So we're now becoming the rare commodity. Like, you try and get hold of a good tradesperson.
It's so hard.
It's difficult. So now we're becoming a trade that's valued
Yeah.
But there's also that thing of the younger generations that are coming through that don't want to get in the trades. There's things. I mean, I use this as an example. You look at Kev, my industry, so Paint Warrior Kev, big shout out Kev, loads of time for Kev.
Big up, Kev. And Tash.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Power couple.
Yeah.
But Kev's journey got started when he painted round a light socket on TikTok, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is something that I personally had done in my job maybe 100,000 times.
Yeah, yeah.
Never thought to put it online because I just thought, well, that's bread and butter. That's like breathing to me.
Exactly, yeah.
But to the new generation coming through, some of the stuff we do that we consider basic and simple is like rocket science. I'm like, wow, can you believe that? You know,
one of my biggest videos is me cutting a hole through a piece of porcelain, sandstone, and it did probably 150 million views. I'm just cutting a hole through a piece of stone.
Yeah,
and the landscaping community sometimes don't know how to take me because they'll see me do something and they'll just think, how's he got millions of views? People have said it to me, how have you got millions of views when my jobs are better than yours? Well, that exact statement is why I do more, because I don't care what I put on social media. At the start, I mean, I do look at my channel now and think I've got to be careful how I portray a certain thing, because now, there's only so many times you can paint slurry on the back of a brick and put it down and it gets boring. So now I am making sure, but we film everything. I've never ever said I'm the best landscaper. I'm probably not even the top 100 in the UK. But what I do know is I fucking love my job. I love making people happy from landscaping gardens. I don't care about the awards. Like, to get an award would be lovely, but that's not my driving force. My driving force is making people happy. Hence why we got into the free gardens. But a lot of landscapers, don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of landscapers that do love me and do follow me. And I've just done Futurescape, and I think my cameraman said we took over 150 pictures with people. Considering I went to an event a year before and had one picture, it's a bit of a leap in 12 months. And a lot of landscapers come up saying that you're a big inspiration. And for me, there's certain landscapers in my area, and I just think, how have you done that? Like, they are incredible. Justin's just won an award, JGH, and Els Tisson in English. For me, they're of my generation. They're the ones to look up to. But I've said that to them, and they say, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm not." They're the people, because everyone has their own idols. Like, for me, an idol, Eminem and Lewis Hamilton. They're my two biggest inspirations of everything I do in my day-to-day life has been inspired from either one of them. I know one of them's extremely controversial, Lewis Hamilton, Eminem. But I've been 3 times, I've been that touching distance to Lewis, and I've froze every time.
You never spoken to
No,
him?
I've met his dad, Anthony, if you're watching this, lots of love. But I met Anthony Hamilton and my legs went like jelly. I give him a cuddle. I was nearly crying because back to the beginning, I didn't have a dad. I didn't have an inspiration. When I first watched Lewis in 2007, my stepdad used to force me to watch F1. Hated it. But on a Sunday, I had to sit there on the floor and watch it. There was a rug. It wasn't all poverty. But I'd sit there on the floor in front of the TV and I'd watch it. And it was only when Lewis come in 2007 and the way he drove, I was like, okay, now that's exciting. And then I latched onto him because they tell you about his story and his dad. And I was like, imagine having a dad like that. And then you constantly like watch him, and every week I was watching the interviews with his dad and how much he defended him. I thought, I mean, my mum defended me, but having someone like Anthony defend me like that, it was like a dream. So then coming full circle of doing the social media, and then I was so close to meeting him in Dubai last year, Abu Dhabi, and I just said no, I kind of just like backed out of the situation. And I was like, in fact, what it was is Lance Stroll. I don't know if you follow F1, but I asked for a picture with Lance Stroll, and he told me to fuck off. And his PA behind me went, "I'm so sorry." Yeah. And then in the distance, I seen Lewis on his scooter, and it broke my heart to think if I asked Lewis and he didn't have time for me, that guy is my idol. Like, when he's on the radio and he's like, you can push yourself, you can do anything you dream. Like, some people think it is corny, but I'm thinking, do you know what? He's come from nothing. I've come from nothing. I'm using that as inspiration. And then this year I went to Silverstone and he won, and I cried. I'm not ashamed to say it, I did, because of when you're a Lewis fan, you're growing up as oh, you're a fucking Lewis fan. Like he's constantly like, although people say they love him, they give him a lot of shit as well. And there's we're from the generation where there was a slight still bit of racist hanging around in the air. So like I'd have people saying to me, "Why are you following that person?" About well, I actually don't care what colour of skin he is. He inspires me. Like there wasn't a lot of coloured people growing up in my area, and I think because of that, I didn't care. I didn't care what colour he was. For me, it was how he treated people. That was first and foremost. If you treat me nice, I'll treat you nice. Just because you got a colour of skin doesn't give you the right to treat someone wrong. That's how I felt with it. And me, obviously, supporting Lewis and getting the shit that I got, and then being at Silverstone and him winning at a time where I was kind of felt like I was at the peak of my social media around all these celebrities, I was just like, I started crying. And then my missus like, let's go and try and meet him. So I was like, right, okay. And there's all different levels of F1, like tickets. Yeah. We had Paddock Club. Paddock Club doesn't get you into VIP, although the classed as a VIP in Paddock Club. And one of the security guards, weirdly enough, kind of just let us through. He was like, yeah, go on, mate, yeah. So we went through, and I was stood next to Brad Pitt and Lewis for 20 minutes. It probably wasn't that. It felt like 20 minutes. It was probably like 30 seconds.
And they just did a film together, didn't they?
Yeah, so that's why they were filming there.
Right.
And I thought, if I go over there where he's walking out, I can meet him. And I've got a video on my phone. I'm never going to show it because it's so embarrassing. But I was stood trying to get a picture of him. And in my head, I told myself, don't bother, mate. You're going to meet him one day. In my head, I'm going to meet him. I'm going to have I want a conversation with him just to tell him how much he's inspired not only me, but a generation. But I don't want to just get a quick picture with him because he means a lot more to me than that. As I was stood there with my phone, as I'm talking to myself not to be on my phone, there was a guy next to me and he went, fucking hell, Mark. And I went, yeah, mate. He went, oh my God, I've followed you for years. And I was like, this is the worst time for someone to spot me because I'm literally fanboying over Lewis. And talking to him, he was like, I said, oh, cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Cool. And straight away deflecting it back to F1. Who are you here to support? Oh, massive Lewis fan like you. So he obviously knew a lot about me. Right. And I was like, let's get a picture with Lewis and then we'll chat after it. And as I've stood it, Lewis is in front of me there. And I froze. I literally froze. I couldn't even lift my arms up. And then he started to take a picture of a lady in front of me in a wheelchair. And as he stood up, I just touched his back. Like a proper little fangirl. And he was so solid. I touched his back and I was like, oh my God. I mean, he might watch this. And if
Lewis, if you're listening,
it was me.
Get some time for a conversation with this man. This man deserves your time.
I was speaking to a lad at a YouTube party the other day, telling him about it. He said he's always going to remember. He was that weird guy that touched me,
jabbed his back,
jabbed his back, poked him. But yeah, that like the whole this year for me has just been incredible.
I think it's key to highlight that, mate. This whole journey started no longer than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing this podcast for just under a year. This January will be a year.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away by what's gone on here. If I'm honest, mate, I would never imagined I'd be sat talking to the likes of you a year ago. It's the truth, mate. It's the truth. Because when you're in the construction industry and you do, it wasn't long ago I was there myself. You look into the social media world in construction, you see the names, you, the home improvement lads, Kev, the people with the big followings, the big accounts, and you look up and you go, how did that happen? How can I get there? And you don't really ever imagine that you'll be rubbing shoulders.
Oh yeah, I would never think I was in some of the things I've done this year. I stopped putting a lot of it on social media because people think there's a thingy with social media, like an idea that, if you've got all these followers, that you're a glitz and glam, that you're something that you're not. And I always bang on to people, I am just a normal guy. Like, I'm going to these places for no other reason than I've worked 18 hours a day. Yeah. Woke up in the middle of the night worrying about what my content's going to be. I'm a true believer in karma, and I'm a true believer in things happen for a reason. Like, when I say to myself, I'm going to meet Lewis Hamilton one day. People think, yeah, of course you are. No one would have said 2 years ago I'd meet Anthony Hamilton, his dad. I've just dropped his brother a message see if you want any garden work done. But for me, if you truly believe that you're going to do something, you'll naturally work towards it. Gary V, like for prime example.
I was going to say, mate, that's huge.
Like
huge.
he's literally like he's not he didn't start social media, but like he was the first one banging on everyone. Get on social media, get on social media. Like everyone that I've shown who Gary V is, when they say, "Oh, who's Gary V?" and they'll show him a picture and they go, "Oh, I know that guy. I know that guy." For him to DM me and then invite me to LA, landscaper from Salford.
Yeah, he DM'd you.
Yeah, DM'd me,
asked you to come over.
Yeah. So I was going through a tough time with social media because, like I said, I do struggle with my mental health. I more struggle with the ADHD. I now know it's the ADHD that causes this. So when I'm now down, I have to give myself a goal. It's a nightmare for my missus because I'm constantly.
What I love about that, though, Mark, because there's a little bit of controversy, I guess, around labelling. Some people get a bit like, "Oh, everyone's labelling this as a." The one thing that I love about the fact, so you are aware that you've got ADHD, or that's the way your brain works.
Yeah.
Because you were born that way. To say you've got something sounds like you've contracted something. So you're aware of the way your brain works, but by now categorizing that, you can now build up the coping mechanisms, your own sort of way of managing your own life and thoughts. That's why it's important.
I think so. Yeah, I'm still not fully come to grips with it, and I don't know if I ever will. But I think for me, there's a channel that I follow at ADHD something or other. But listening to him and understanding who you are, because I've just done. Do you know Mike Posner, the guy who's saying, "I took a pill and I beef. I told the GG, I was cool." So I met him in LA, and he did a video on me, and he's just posted it. He's clabbed me in it, and
I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw
it's
it
gone. I don't know if it went viral or not. It got a lot of likes, and I also got a lot of celebrities messaging us and people messaging us saying, "You had a video with Mike Posner." It's like, yeah, it's my mate, innit? But I bumped into him, and again, Jack, my social media manager. I've got 8 in my social media team now. But Jack, he was my first employee. He manages my socials where I ain't got the time to do it. Like if I'm here and he's doing something, he'll.
You've got 8. 2 years in, and now 8. I mean, that's a company. That's a business.
Oh yeah, it's me. I've set up as media marshal. Yeah.
8 people working for you in social media. Like, mate, that's commendable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There's no, I think so. Yeah, like, that's fucking incredible.
I don't think of it like that. I just think of if I'm earning money from social media, I put everything back into it, literally every penny. When people see me with a new watch or something, that'll be from Lawn Traps and Hedges, from the separate company. Social media is Media Marshall. It's nothing to. It is obviously something to do with Lawn Traps and Hedges.
Totally different levels, but I'm doing the same thing. Yeah. So I've got my decorating business is what it is, and I just see them as separate entities. Although they're not, because I'm not limited. But I see them as separate entities. So I've got my business. I've got the podcast itself has got its own pot, as it were, and that they don't mix. You don't mix the two. So.
No, I try not to mix them. I have a finger company as well, a maintenance company that Rocco and Tina pretty much run, but we just do that now just to kind of keep Rocco in a job. I might next year or when time comes grow that side of the business, because for me I've got so many fingers in pies and wanting to do stuff. The actual truth of it is I want to be rich. There's no question about it.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, and now I'm pushing to get that, but I'm not doing it. Oh, I want to be rich. Or what? People, I don't know what people's thoughts on that is, but for me, I've come from nothing. So I've always been somewhere when you go to either Ocean Beach and you see all the people in VIP, or go to the F1 and you see people on the yachts in Monaco. I think, is it possible for a kid that can't read and write to get on one of them boats one day? And then the only way I'm going to change that is by me doing it myself and be like, do you know what? Yes, I did get the piss took out because I can't read and write. Yes, I've got ADHD. Yes, I do shit that I shouldn't do. But I'm going to get there to prove to other people that I can do it, because that's one of the biggest driving forces. Most of the deals that I've got with brands is because people say you can't do it. The Snickers deal that we did is because someone said, "Yeah, good luck," and that passive aggressiveness is like, "Oh yeah, go you wait, and then 2 months later I signed with Snickers." So it's like I'm constantly thriving on proving people wrong. It's like the whole, the garden thing. I did one, it failed, but I knew deep down that's what I wanted to do. I really wanted to do landscaping for free, because if social media gives you an income, why not? Like, what? Why do you need to be greedy? I think if you keep casting your bread, it'll come back buttered eventually.
So let's talk about what you do with that then, Mark, because I know what you do. I know what you're doing with the free gardens, but talk me through how that came about, how you got started doing that, and what you're doing.
So again, it's a mix of different decisions that led me to that. So one of it was customers, because they could see what I was doing on social media. They would then think, well, you're charging me $8,000 for this garden, but you're going to make 20 grand on this with your social media. How's it fair on them when it's their garden?
Right.
So it's like, they would never say that, but you could just tell. Like, I dealt with a few customers where I just knew that they were a bit pissed off with my social media, with filming them when you're meant to be doing a job.
How did that work? Like, would you sort of go in and say, look, I'm going to do your garden, but just to let you know, I film. Are you okay with that? Like,
Yeah.
Was there any kind of permission given, or?
Yeah. So on the estimate, when we send the estimate, just say, look, we wasn't content creators then, but we film content to post on social media to show our audience, about landscaping. What that means is I give you a price, 10 grand for your garden, but realistically, it's going to be a 15 grand garden, because I'm going to put extra detail in. So all them little cuts that we did for the first year, like last year, I did all that for free. So all them little cuts that we did, all the curves that we didn't price in, that took me 2 days. The grids that I learned how to do, like, to an absolute T, was just practice. But then I never charged them for that. So then they was getting a better garden.
So they were still winning.
Oh yeah, the 100%. Yeah. But then it got to a stage where brands would then gift me pergolas, furniture. So then it went from them getting, rather than getting a 15 grand garden for say 10 grand or 12 grand, they were then getting a 20, 30 grand garden for that money. So then I thought, why is that fair? So then I thought to myself, why not support the people that have supported me, my followers? I went down the avenue of mates, doing things for mates, but the reality is they're not your biggest supporters. You think they are, but they're not. You find truer friends within the community, which is sad. I've still got my mates that, really proud of me and love what I do. But everyone wants something for free, everyone. So now what we do is we select who we want. So there's no competition. There's no, if there's, like, I'm just doing a giveaway with Newstone, but that's nothing to do with me. That's them company that's running it. So for me, it's all on me. I pick, I decide. If you don't want it, don't put your name forward. So they're obviously going to get a nice garden. They're obviously going to get a big transformation. But now it's just put me in full control, because I've done things in the past and it's not gone the right way. No fault of my own. You just need to be clearer, but without going through them pitfalls and mistakes, you don't know. But for me, one of the proudest things of this year was the shit we went through, and now completing project number 6 for free. That's over £100,000.
6 free gardens.
6 free gardens. Yeah. Next year I'm going to go for 30.
30,
and the year after I'm probably going to go for close to 50. I reckon.
So how do you even do that logistically, Mark? Like, you turning them around in a week or 2 weeks?
So Michael's, I don't know if you've watched any of the long form videos yet, but Michael's was 3-day turnaround.
Jesus.
Megan's was a 4-day turnaround, but Megan's was probably one of the proudest ones that I've done, because it was a full transformation. There was bits on the project I'd never done before, like the natural stone path. So for me, for my ADHD, I need to keep it interesting for myself. So if it keeps it interesting for me, then it'll probably keep it interesting for the audience as well. So
Yeah.
anything I do on this project going forward, it's got to be something that I've never done before, and get someone involved that's never been with me before to see the dynamic and to see how I work. We've just had Ben from Garden Rescue
Okay.
off BBC. So he's just come and done a day with us, and he was like, sent me a voice note yesterday, and he was like, I've worked in TV for 15 years. I've never seen anything like it. How you've turned that guard around with your team and produced that video that quick, like it's going live this Sunday. He's like, this is your going places.
I said this, mate, before recording. I said that, like, the thing I love about what you're doing is the fact that you are essentially making your own TV program, because that's what it's got to with you now, Mark.
Yeah.
It's not just content. This is like professional level, full feature length programs that you're creating.
Yeah.
But because you're releasing it on the platforms you are, i.e. YouTube, go and subscribe to Mark if you don't already.
Yeah, if you want a free garden, hit me up, baby. Make sure you subscribe.
But because you're doing it the way you're doing it, you've got that full control.
Yeah.
You control the time scale, you control the edits, you control what goes on. I love that, because like, it's kind of, it's a real person giving back to real people.
Yeah.
And
for me, that was important.
Got the insight, mate. Because you're hands-on, feet on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what people want to see.
Yeah.
You've got years and years of experience dealing with customers.
Yeah.
So you know a customer's mindset. You know what they want to see. It's not like, and there's no disrespect to producers of TV shows out there, but quite often they're not anything to do with the trade that they're managing. So
I think that's one thing Ben said to me, because he's been in it a long time. He was surprised in the level that we could do in the short time with the budget we had, of me funding it, me creating it, me directing it, me sitting over the edit. Like, for me, it's very important that the audience get emotion from watching it, because when I know I'm probably biased, but the video that's going out this Sunday, make sure you watch it. I think it's the best TV.
Hold on, mate. I'm trying to work out when this will go out. So
Go back and watch it.
This, do you know what, Mark? This will be out next Friday.
Yeah,
that's
so
how quickly I'm turning it around. So it'll be, you're talking about Sunday in 2 days' time.
Yeah. So
go back and watch last week's episode of Mark's.
I honestly, I watched it, and I said to Phil, my long form editor, I said, I didn't know he was off Monday, Tuesday. So Caleb, the cameraman, got in and started to chop the video down, and it was at 36 hours, and he managed to get it down to 17 hours, and he was like, I can't get any more off it. Phil was coming Wednesday, and by Friday morning he'd cut it down to 25 minutes. And
that's mad.
Oh, he's incredible. He used to work for Netflix.
36 hours down to 25 minutes.
Yeah, so he's cut it right down, and he's under pressure, and he'll kill me if I do it again. But I watched it, and I said, I honestly think this is the best program that's ever been filmed for any gardening show ever to be published on TV. I rang my agent, Jacob, and I said, Jacob, please watch this video. This is the best video that I've ever done. But not only that, it wipes the floor with any Ground Forced episode, any Gardener's World, whatever the different names are called. And I sent it to a few people last night, and they messaged me back saying, mate, like, that is like, how have you produced that? And it's like, I've got such a good team around me.
I'm excited to watch it myself now, mate.
I honestly, like, Phil, when I interviewed for some editors at the beginning, probably midway through the year, June-ish time, when Jack was getting just too busy. We wasn't coping with what we had. There was me, Tina, and Jack. Tina is literally my rock. She looks after pretty much everything to do with me. So this, for instance, she's been communicating for you to be with this.
Tina's your partner.
Yeah, Tina's pretty much my wife. We was meant to get married in lockdown, but we cancelled. But we just say we're husband and wife now. But she literally controls my life, and I go back at her and do things that I shouldn't do, like go to places, and she'll be like, you can't go there because you're here. And so she organises kind of my life, but then
Shout out, Tina, well done.
She gets the brunt of it, because obviously she has to deal with someone with ADHD. That's constantly emotions everywhere. And then Jack come on, he didn't think we was going to be, his mum was a follower of ours, and I put a message out for a social media manager just to take a bit of pressure off me. very quickly we needed someone else. So then we put a message out there for editors. We had like 50 odd people, because if they see Lawn Stripes and Hedges, they see the videos and they think, I want to work for them. They think you're a big corporation, not just one guy. And when they come and you're just on your own, and it's like, yeah, it's just me that does everything, mate. And they're like, what? So then we took 2 people really shined in the interviews. So I was like, I rang my mate Scott, who he's like a multi-millionaire, sold his company, Superbike Factory, a girlfriend, for advice on anything to do with business. And I said, I'm thinking about taking 2 editors on because of this reason. Now, he doesn't get my world, but he was like, can you afford it? I said, I can't. Yeah, I can afford it. He said, is it worth the risk? And I went, yeah. He went, well, you've got your answer. So I took 2 editors on. So there was me, Jack, 2 editors, me filming, Tina filming. Wasn't enough. So I was like, right, I need to take a cameraman on. I've got to, because I can't survive, because you just slowing the jobs down.
Yeah.
So we ended up taking a cameraman on, then another camera person, a lady. And then now it's us. Like, we swapped Tom out for Caleb, who's just come out of uni, really talented cameraman. So now we've kind of got our team, and we're producing these good videos within a week. So for next year, one thing Gary said to me, which I said off camera, when I said, like, I feel like I'm not growing, or I'm just stagnant, like I'd been stuck on like 2 million followers for such a long time, 3 months. That's kind of what in my head.
3 months, yeah.
I'm thinking I'm not really growing. Like, I'm growing like 500 followers a day. It's rubbish because of the big spikes we've had where we gain 10,000 followers in a day.
Where do those spikes come from?
The videos. So
right,
yeah,
so just the video will hit really well, and you'll see
video will hit really well. Yeah, but you again, you learn so much from content. And for me, I've always been about, if one video does really well and one does really bad, why? Keep asking yourself why. So look at the data, put the videos side by side. Well, this one had a retention rate of 20 seconds. This one had 10 seconds. What happens in 10 seconds? What happens in 20 seconds? How can you make that 10 go to 20? So like, you're constantly editing in my mind, this will be boring for people to watch, or make it quicker. I'll chop this down. The music's really emotional, so I'm going to slow it down to match. So it becomes a piece of art rather than just banging up a piece of content. But the amount of people that say, like, you're lucky, you're lucky because you've got all them followers, like, they don't understand what work I've put into it. And and when I meet him at events, and I'll just say, yeah, and I'll kind of just pass it off, because like Mr. Beast says, make 100 videos and come back to me. That's important, because you've got, what he's saying by that is, live through your troubles. Once you then get stuck, then come back to me. But you'll normally get to 100 videos and you'll understand why you've not performed. But then if you're not understanding why, you're not asking the right questions. You think people keep going on about algorithms. So people will say, how do I make the algorithm work? How do I make the algorithm share my videos? Replace algorithm with audience and it'll change your whole perception. What does the audience want to see? So what's your content about? Your content is about painting. So what if someone's watching your audience for painting, what do they want to see? So the first thing is, I need to decorate my room. What do I do? What do you do? What do you do at stage 1? So then you're like, today we're going to decorate this room. Let's strip it back. So how we strip it back is we take the finger off. This is always a nightmare. Steamer, talking through the stages. And that's all I've done is I want to do my garden, but I don't know where to start. The first hardest bit is starting. So once you started, you're off. Just keep going. Every day, just keep going. So stage 1, what do you need to do? Well, what do you want? So what do you want from your garden? You want an area to entertain. Most people want a bar nowadays. Most people want a nice lawn. So then you look at, okay, well, where does the sun go in your garden? So just keep asking yourselves them same questions and then create your content around that matter. And then you've cracked it, no matter what field you work in.
It's consistency, mate, as well, isn't it? With social media, you've got to keep going.
I've just nearly quit on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, I just nearly quit. I was like, you know what? I've had enough. Like, not posting anymore. And then I got invited to a YouTube party, and it kind of kicked me on a little bit. And
you want 265,000 subscribers or something?
I think so. Yeah. I've actually, I was saying to the woman who's like the head of YouTube UK, I said I've had enough, and she's like, why? I said, well, I'll post a video on Instagram. It gets 50 million views. I post it on YouTube, and it gets 10,000 views. but every platform's different, in it. You have to tweak it to each platform. But sometimes you spit your dummy out because of all the time and effort you put in. So each project now costs me around about £10,000. Me.
Yeah.
So I have to make it work.
Yeah.
It's flat. It's fight, flight, or fly for me. Is that what it says?
Yeah, mate, you're invested.
Yeah.
You're invested. I'm with what I'm doing with the podcast here, I'm sort of caught in between two places because I'm like, on one respect, I need to grow the audience because what I'm trying to do is spread the message and, get out there and get as many people listening as possible. That's a good place to pause a moment and say a big thank you to this episode's sponsors, Q1. Q1 offer premium masking solutions, the perfect choice for the professional that demands perfection. Q1 tapes deliver clean, sharp lines every single time. They're designed for superior adhesion and easy removal, leaving no adhesive residue. In addition to the tapes, Q1 offer a whole range of surface protection. Using Q1, your projects look professional and the results speak for themselves. Available in most stores and online at q1tapes.com. The Talking Tradesman would like to offer our sincere thanks to Q1 for offering your support to raise mental health awareness and supporting the podcast from day one. I can speak personally and I say that I use Q1 in my business on every project. With that said, let's get back to the episode. But at the same time, it's like I'm trying not to focus too heavily on figures.
Yeah.
Even though I need the figures, because if I start trying to, do you know what? Perfect example, mate. Before you came here 10 minutes ago, and I'll put this out actually for anyone listening, 10 minutes before you got here today, I had somebody message me on Instagram and say, just reaching out to you, Russ, love what you're doing. I've got this story, told me a little bit, which I won't repeat now, and said, the only thing is I'm not really on socials, so I haven't got a big audience. So I didn't think, like, do you only speak to people with a big following? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will and have sat down here with people with absolutely no social presence whatsoever, because that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's what I find with social media is sometimes you end up tracing the wrong thing. So for a long time, through like meeting, say, the home improvement, Brad's a figures guy, so he's constantly number. So like for me, you naturally start to do that. And what I've realized recently is we started YouTube 3 months ago. I've done YouTube for longer, but like properly give it a go. Like there's my time and energy on YouTube now. So we took Phil on, which is the editor for YouTube. He started in July, I think it was, maybe August. He's done 10 videos, I think, 10 videos for us. And now we've just started the garden transformations. We've filmed 2 projects away from home. So for me, we've done 2 videos that I want to create. So I've only been doing YouTube really for 2 videos for what we want to do before we found our feet. We've put scatty stuff on there, but now it's like, right, there's 2 projects. I literally, if I go anywhere in public now and there's a group of somewhat people our age, between 20 and 50, I'll get recognised. But I've done social media for 2 years. Last year, I probably didn't. Only people recognise me because I was the channel. Oh, you're Launch Rats and Hedges, because they might see a bit of my face.
Yeah.
So now I'm becoming more recognised from slowing the content down, making it more personal, making it about what I actually want the content to be about. Is I want people to laugh, be amazed, cry, sadness, bring emotion back from a loved one. I want people to get emotion from it because that's what I get from doing the garden. Like the knocking on the door and the surprising at the end, that wasn't intentionally meant to be like that. I just thought I could feel like the garden was coming alive. Like Michael's was the first one where we made him. In fact, no, Mark's was, but Mark's reaction, he was my mate and we did his driveway and he went, yeah, it's mint. And then in the end, he said to me, he was like, look, I'll be honest, mate. He says, I am really bad with my emotions, but I do really. He sent me a text, a really nice message, and I get that because that's what Mark's like. But from an audience point of view, they want to see someone like you've just grafted and made their beautiful driveway, and you go, oh wow, that's mint. They want to be like, oh my god, that's incredible, because then it lifts their emotions as well.
Feel good factor, man.
Yeah, it's a feel good factor. Yeah. So when we'd done it, I was like, when we'd done Michael's, I was like, that moment there, that's where it's about for me. And I've actually stopped posting as much short form content because for me, it's not about the big number. It's about if I can hit 10,000 people. For instance, we not last month before, we did 175 million views in 1 month.
I can't even compute those figures, mate. I've got to be honest with you. It just sounds mad.
Exactly. But a lot of that is from people just watching a garden transformation. Yes, I've got my face in it, but
175 million.
Last month we did, I think it was 50 million. And
I mean, compare that, mate. Compare that. Terrestrial TV.
Oh, there's no competition. No
big program out now. I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah.
What kind of figures would they get on a?
I think I'm a Celeb gets about between 5 million and 10 million views, depending on the episode. But on average, it's I think average is 3 million when I checked.
3 million.
Because we've just been this year. Obviously, you're growing on social media. You get asked to do these shows.
You think about the money behind that, though. So you got I'm a Celebrity getting about 3 million if they put an episode out daily, 5 days a week. That's 20 over a month. So you're at what? Hit me with the maths now. So you're at what? 15 a week. So 30, 60 million a month.
Yeah.
On a mainstream terrestrial TV with a huge budget.
Yeah.
Into the millions, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're doing triple that.
Yeah.
That's mad. That is mad.
But it's how to turn that into, because what there's a facade with social media in if you've got a big number, you think that you're famous, but what is the content about? So if it's an ASMR, I noticed when we was getting brands offering us money for a video, it's a lot more now, and it's me on camera talking about stuff because you become the value, you're the content. So if I say I'm going knocking on this person's door, people now know me as, well, they will start to know me as the guy that knocks on and surprises and transforms gardens. It's me that's the content. Whereas if it's just an ASMR about me cutting a hole in a piece of brick, 9 times out of 10 you would have seen that video, but you don't know it's me.
Yeah.
So for me, I learned that pretty early on this year. I was like, we need to start swapping my content to be more me.
So you want it more personal?
Yeah, because it affects you more. Because if I for instance, we put an email saying, look, if you want your garden done, drop us a message. We had 4,000 emails to say, love Mark content, I watched it from the start, love how he's becoming. But if I was to do an event and say, look, I'm going to be at this event like I did with Futurescape, and I said I'm going to be at Futurescape, hundreds and hundreds of people come to see me because they want to see me, not me cut a piece of stone and it's just an ASMR. So what that does then, it gives me more value, which means I can put more money back into my audience. Because next year I want a team. I've already started prepping a team. I want a team where they do the bulk of the work and I'm still on the project, still doing all the bits, but it gives me relief so we can get through gardens quicker. Because eventually I want to try and do like 100 gardens in a year. That's the goal. Free gardens, which is going to cost millions.
Yeah.
But imagine with that, doing that, Tina worked out there's 50 odd million homes in the UK with a garden. My content can relate to 50 million people.
True, yeah.
And that's just England. So my goal is a very fresh new style of content, but for the normal person. What
would you say? Because I can see this happening, mate. I don't think it's out of touch. What would you say if a major producer, an Amazon, a Netflix came along and were like, right, Mark, we want to make a 15 episode series?
Yeah, like Mr. Beast has just done
I've no idea. I haven't. He's just signed
with Amazon for 150 million.
Well, I mean, I guess if they offered you that, you'd be all in. But
I would.
Would there be a bit of a sort of balance there where because you'd hand over power, essentially.
Yeah,
you'd then have their production, you'd do what they wanted to do. Would you consider doing it?
No. So I've turned down 2 shows on TV this year. And one of them we got through to the very last stage where we'd made the show. And then I still pulled out of it.
Really?
Yeah, because...
So you'd made it, you'd filmed it,
filmed it, yeah. But then the creative control got removed at the very end. And I was like, nah, I'm out. Right. So for me, yes, I would do a Netflix show. We've already put the feelers out, started conversations, but for me, it's super important to deliver to my audience what I want to deliver, because it's my kind of brain that's made the whole journey of this kind of new concept out. I've took bits of elements from like stuff that I've grown up with, but But if you then, like you say, give that to a producer or a team, that gets removed. So what I also did, knowing that we're going to get a show one day, is build up a team around me. So I now can film, produce, edit, make the video, do everything myself at a very high standard, if I don't say so myself. So when they do come along and say, actually, no, we do want to make a TV show.
So could you like hand them the product kind of thing?
I
like,
could just hand them the product, yeah.
We have recorded 10 episodes of this. We can give you
Yeah.
that pre-done,
Yeah.
recorded, edited. You don't change it. It goes out as
I please,
intended.
yeah.
Like.
So that for me, that's when it comes to that, because when you look at TV now, you look at stuff that you watch, there's no one doing that concept. But we watch so much shite TV.
Mate, the whole consumerism of media like that has changed so much now. That you will find more people now. I mean, it's like it in my household. If I put a series on, I look at my missus, my son, they don't watch it, mate.
No,
that's
they
like
don't.
They're watching short for, oh yeah, put that on, and then the phone comes out.
Yeah.
And they'll be watching short form media or YouTube or whatever. While there's something, it's almost like background noise.
Yeah. Oh no, it is. Like even my missus, me and my missus will do it. Like we'll watch a film and then the film will get a little bit boring. And then 2 seconds later, we both got our phones in our hands.
It's mad, isn't it?
And that's when it becomes like numbing content, whereas like where my ASMR stuff fits into that, because you're watching a film, you don't want it to take your information or your attention straight away from the film, so you do still watch a little bit of it.
I'm learning so much from this conversation. You're like a fucking social media genius, mate. Honestly, it intrigues me because I've studied psychology and I've studied like social science. So like society interests me. And I've said to a few people in the past, So I went through school absolutely fine, mate. I had no markers of ADHD or anything like that. I now have those markers in certain things. And I do genuinely believe that like phones, social media, smartphones
have made us like that.
Have given, it's whether it's possible to change your mindset, but my attention span has definitely dropped. Because I'll do exactly what you just said. If there's a minute lull in something where my attention just drops, something gets a little bit flat, phone comes out, check this, check that. But then that will grab me. So that because it's a short form burst. And then
you get the endorphin.
And then I've lost it then. And then I'll look,
you can't get back into the film.
I'm like, oh, fuck.
The
only time where that doesn't happen is if I go to the cinema.
And you can't be on,
my phone's in my pocket and it's still that taboo. Don't get your phone out. You can't have the light flashing up, blah, blah, blah. It's the only time now where I can fully
focus. I'm quite similar to that. But with me, I understand that, because if I watch my missus and she'll pick her phone up, like if we've got a video going viral, she can't not be on the phone because we try and respond to all comments. So she gets through the most like PM, and then the team in the office will try and pick it up AM and go through the day comments. But Tina will smash through them at the night time. But for me, when I make the long form content, I make it like a short form, really engaging, really quick, like from studying your data after a video's gone live, and you think, why is that dropped? Like it tells you, if you go on your analytics, it tells you why it's dropped. There's an interview for 15 minutes about resin. No one's going to want to listen to that, so they'll turn it off. So let's get rid of that, and so now my videos, this one is like, we've just traveled to Manchester to landscape a garden for free. Let's go. Bang, straight into the video. Then we do a little Top Gear style, like what's gone in the what's coming up in the video. And then bang, straight into the video. Quick, all the way through it. Like a little bit Mr. Beastie. But then I think we still got a little bit of learning and stuff to go. But what I say to my agent, you've got to be confident in yourself. And I've always been confident in kind of what I put my energy into. And I've said to him, in the next couple of years, we're going to be in the name of the biggest creators in the UK. Not in my niche, not landscaping.
Just in general.
In general. I want to be up there with the Sidemen. And then people think, well, you'll not do that because of this, that, and the other. Like, no one's doing what I do, that we're doing. And if I can do it and do more people's gardens and put more smiles on more faces and make more people happy, why not go for it? Why not give it everything?
I love the fact that what you do, mate, as well, it's happy, positive content. It's not controversial.
No.
It's not like rage baiting. It's not anything that's designed to get engagement through provoking negative emotions. Like, what you do is like feel good. You
Yeah,
know
well,
what I mean?
I think that's what's going to give it sustainability. Because for me, we don't. I mean, we swear, but we bleep everything out in the YouTube. We keep it family friendly, because if you're sitting there with your mum watching it, or your mum's watching it on YouTube, they've probably seen me on social media. So we're getting a lot of that now, where the mums or dads are watching the video, looking for the codes in the long videos. The kids see me on social media. Like the amount of we did a giveaway once, and some young girl won it for a dad. And she was like, I want to give this my dad. And the dad drove down. He was like, oh, I'm a landscape. He says, I didn't even know who you was. Like, no disrespect, I didn't even know who you was. And I went, not everyone's going to know who you are. I actually don't really care about that follower number. And for me, the truth of it is I want to make people watch my content and think, that's mint. That's good. Because that good feeling will outlast something negative. Like,
Definitely, mate. Yeah.
for the people watching this will know what I've gone through throughout kind of last 12 months, and all that negativity now, where's it gone? It's disappeared. But I've still kept moving forward. I've still kept going. That's because at the core, what I'm doing it from a good place. I'm doing it because, well, it's a little bit selfish. Like we mentioned off camera, is I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. So you kind of essentially using people to give them a free garden to give you a little endorphin
Do you know
boost.
what, mate? If everybody in the world used each other that way, it'd be a better place.
Imagine.
You know, I've said this a few times, mate. So I went through a stage when I was studying various things. I studied Buddhism, and one of the things, I'm not religious, by the way. I just love some of the Buddhist philosophies and ways of life. And one of the things that stuck out to me was the Buddhist philosophy that happiness is found through service to others.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And when you think about that, it's like, well, it's a good thing to do. It's a kind thing to do. You donate your time, your effort, whatever, to help somebody.
Yeah.
You do it because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So you walk out of that situation, feel good about yourself, feel like you're a good person.
Yeah.
So it's self-serving. It's still self-serving, but you do that by helping others.
Yeah.
And I found that, as I said to you before, through the time I spent volunteering.
Yeah.
And it ticked a box that I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
So it was only when I started doing that and started leaving and walking out and thinking, yeah, like,
yeah, feel good.
I
Yeah.
feel good.
It
I
makes
didn't
it.
realise,
I think with social media, I mean, I've had my fair share of negativity. I think I say it to my missus all the time, and I can detach myself from social media. Whereas when someone attacks me on social media, she takes it personally, because she loves me, and she don't want people to see me like negative towards me. But a lot of the time, it's coming from they've had probably a shit day at work. They probably think they do better work than they probably do better work than me. But they come home, they've had a shit day, they've had an argument with the missus, they go on social media and they see a kid there putting videos on, and they think I do shit work. Why has he got 3 million followers? Why does he deserve it? Next thing, the texts come out, and they'll be like, well, this works shit, this is shocking, this is over. We had someone message the other day saying, can tell you're on a day rate. This is a fucking rip-off.
Oh,
it's
mate.
free.
Mark, honestly, like, to touch on that subject, the trolling. So my son is 17.
Can I have a quick wee?
Yeah, of course, mate. You go ahead. Go ahead.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, and we're back. So as I was saying, mate, on the subject of trolls and trolling,
Yeah.
like, my son, he's 17, and I've encouraged him to get in social media, because I'm like, look, mate, that not only do not that many people do it and are comfortable on camera, but you're now an apprentice, and there's even less of them.
Yeah.
So I've encouraged him to start posting on socials, and he put up a video. It was probably a month ago, and it was literally, he was just showcasing a product he was using to prime some bare wood. And there was a segment, there's literally like the tin of paint he was using, our sponsors, funnily enough, Zinsser. So he was using this primer, and you see him literally dip his brush in the paint and paint this door frame, and it must have been 3 seconds worth of paint. The comments that came, Zinsser reposted it, and the abuse on their page, they took the video down. I didn't ask them to. They took it down of their own accord. But you've got a 17-year-old kid who's an apprentice. You've watched him paint a door frame for 3 seconds or less, and there was just this tirade of like middle-aged blokes. Day rate, what a joker, one of the things as a painter, mate, an insult, we get called gardeners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a gardener, and all this lot. And I'm looking, thinking, what is wrong with you lot? It's I don't understand the mentality, mate. But
I think it's like you say. I mean, since we've been doing the free guidance stuff, it has calmed down a bit. Like
It's hard to
it's hard
give
to
abuse to
hard to
charity.
give
Isn't it?
it's hard to give abuse to someone that's trying to do a nice thing. We still get, but it's less than 1%. Like
Yeah.
we used to be say 5%. It's never been really bad until we went through a bad period. But other than that, it's been pretty good, pretty kind of plain sailing. But when you see other people's, and like, I mean, I'm privileged to be in a position now where I go to these events and there's other creators there, and the girls, models get it absolutely. I wouldn't want to be a girl just because of how much shit a female content creator. Because you either get men perving over you and giving you abuse for being good looking, or for whatever reason, you get so much shit for it. Whereas mine's when I look at it and I'm trying to say mine's bad, and they're like, "Mate, have you seen my comments?" So it is tough. Like, I just say, keep going. I know it is really hard with the negative comments, and it does put people. That's one thing people say to me. I couldn't do it, me, because I've seen when people meet me and speak to me for more than 5 minutes, they go, "I can see you get some hate," and it's like, who's laughing now? I'm now. My dream was one day to be able to kind of landscape gardens for free. I'm now fulfilling my dream. Who's laughing? I've got so many good sponsors that are behind me. But I've had sponsors like that have pulled out because they've seen a comment and they're saying that something's not right, and it's like, what? Like, but then I've also had sponsors that have now stuck with me, and they're now reaping the rewards from it, because I've very cockily knew where I was going to be. When I set out, when I was in Mexico 2 years ago with my missus, I said, I'm going to get to 1 million followers on social media. For me, it was about, back then, it was about the number. It wasn't about making...
Where are you at now, out of interest, followers?
2.8 million, I think.
2.8, you think? You
know
exactly,
2.855. No, I've actually, over the last couple of months, I've tried to stop looking at it. I've tried to stop looking at the number.
So what are your main platforms? Obviously, you've got YouTube, Instagram,
so
Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah, we do them all. My main goal is to make it work on YouTube, because we did 175 million last month. If we did that on YouTube, we would have made about 4 or 5 million quid.
So is that what it is? Because again, mate, just to speak candidly, really, so YouTube pay the best?
Long form, yeah. I think it's because of my niche on what... So we post safe content. So there's no, like you said, it's feel good factor. So our CPM's quite high. I think we've had up to 28 quid for every 1,000 views. So we did a video that did 200,000. I think it did like 2 grand in revenue. So then we put that straight back in. I'm quite open to speak about what we earn on social media, because it doesn't go in my pocket. Like,
mate, listen, for anyone watching, like, Mark's deep, like neck deep in it.
Yeah.
I'm like dipping my toes. But I can testify to that. Anything that comes in just goes straight back. Because everything has a cost.
Oh, like the production. So because I know my main goal is, I want to do so many gardens a year, so to then make it viral to the point where people are like, "Oh, this is mega." So then people start just to feel good. But what it also does is it gets people out in the garden and creating them everlasting memories with the family. So in years to come, when I'm got dead and buried, I want to be remembered as someone that meant something, not for someone that's on my gravestone, 10 million followers on social media. It's a relative, isn't it? No one gives a shit. It's just a number. But
that,
if it was on the gravestone, it said bloody good guy, and people meant it. For me, I'm trying to build my legacy now for my son, for my missus. I'm trying to build a legacy that inspires people to then come and take it on. And like Caleb, my cameraman, he was like, I don't care what it takes, but I want to work for you. I love your stuff. Like, I want to be part of it. So for me, that was a big decision to take him on, because it was like, people can now see where we're going. And do you know where I got that from? Gary V. So obviously Gary invited us over to LA, and one thing I picked up from him was, it wasn't just him, it was the team around him, having the right people. And I'm quite close to a few people that work for him now, and they're just genuinely good people that want to see people win. And I met a guy from do you know Al Capone?
Yeah.
His grandson.
You didn't meet him, did you?
No. His grandson. So his grandson, and he lives in New York, and he
Not in the same business as his granddad, then.
no. He's done some acting, but he's like an investor and stuff now. But I hit it off with him, and he's like, as soon as I've done something well, like we've not announced it on social media just because it kind of rubs people up the wrong way. But since January this year, we've done 1 billion views since January. So we've done better than what we did last year. But when you say that, that's a big number, isn't it?
That's a massive. That's one of them numbers that you can't actually compute. You can't imagine it because it's too many. Like, I always sit there and think I can't remember what 1 billion is, but it's a million, isn't it?
1 million, yeah.
Is it 1 million or 1,000 million? It's 1,000 million.
I reckon it's 1 billion.
It's definitely
yeah,
1 billion.
1 billion.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, I think it's 1,000 million. Yeah, but Jack told me the other day, and he put it on his story, and then I reshared it. And my mate from New York messaged me, CJ, and he was like, "Bro, 1 billion people have watched your videos." So because we're getting recognised now in random places, like me and my missus went to York the other week, and we said, "Come on, we'll go in a quiet pub and we'll just have a couple of drinks, a bit of me and you time." And there was 2 groups of people in there, and out of them groups of people, there was someone out there that followed us. One of them was like a super fan, and he was like, "I absolutely love what you do, mate. I'm a landscaper myself. You're a big inspiration." So then my missus was like, in her head, it had ruined the night because she wanted a bit of personal time, me and her again. So then this weekend, 2 days ago in London, just stood to get in my room, and some guy went, "Mark," straight away. And I was like, "Yeah," mate. Went, "Mate, is it you?" And I was like, "Yeah." Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, mate, can I get a picture of you?" And I'm like, I said to my missus when I got back, that's a random place at a random time. That's just not coincidence. Imagine how many people around the UK actually know about me.
Yeah.
So when you think of it like that, you think, it's mental.
It is
like,
crazy.
I'm a big fan of like Matt Armstrong. I love his content. I'm privileged to talk to him. There's so many creators that I know and love, and then when I think about it, I think I'm other people's creator. Like when you think of Matt Armstrong, there's a guy called Niall who does funny videos on social media. He's got about 10 million followers. I'm a big fan of his, and I bumped into him the other day, and I was like, "Mate," and I fanboyed over him. I was like, "I love you," because I suffer with mental health. When I'm down, I watch his videos because he just make me laugh, and it brings me out of my kind of little lull that I'm in. And he was like, "Oh, mate, that's incredible. That's kind of what I do. That's what I do it for, just to make people laugh." And then just talking to him for 2 minutes, and then we naturally gravitated towards each other again because we're both the same age. Content is full of younger people, so we're, as the older generation, it was like we were the elders in this situation. So there was the guy off Love Island, there was me, and there was Niall, and there was a sports presenter who does sports commentary on social media, and we're all stood there talking. It's like, how weird is this that social media has brought us 3 together? And I look at them and think, mate, that's the guy off Love Island. That's Michael. You know, the fireman with who's the tattoos. Yeah. So him, and I'm like, I'm stood next to Michael. But I can't say that to Michael because he's like, "Oh, you're pretty cool." I'm like, "Oh, he thinks I'm cool. You're cool." And he's like sounding, and you go on his profile and he's with Anthony Joshua, he's with like all these famous, Tyson Fury. And I'm thinking, it's when you think of it as a job, social media as a job, and you just go into work every day, you just film your videos every day, because that's essentially what it is now for me, a job. I do love it, but that's all they're doing. They're a superstar, but they're a boxer because that's his job as a boxer, and he's meeting random people, and it's...
You touched on it earlier, mate. I love the fact that you guys are breaking out.
Yeah.
So the likes of you and the home improvement lads and Kev and like Danny Madden, who was in last week, and some of the other big content creators that I've sat down with, you're all doing your part in raising the industry up. And one of the big things that I've had an issue with is like the education system and the perception of the building trades with the youngsters. But the likes of you lads now out there trailblazing, raising the industry up, showing the benefits of it, showing that you can do well, showing that you can, as a landscaper, rub shoulders with these people.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's fucking brilliant.
It is crazy.
It's brilliant is what it is.
It's nice to know, because for me, I've never said I'm an influencer. I've always said I just create content. But I don't class myself in the same field as them. Like when I go to... It was weird when I was with Mike from Love Island this week. We were chatting, and that's the first time I felt like not like normal with him. because when I went to the F1, I was privileged going to the paddock club, and we was with anyone that was someone was there. Gordon Ramsay, Jeremy Clarkson. These aren't. I was stood next to Matt Watson, talking to Matt Watson because he knew who I was, and was just stood on the pit lane, and all these famous people are walking past them, thinking, "Wow, like I'm here with these people." So I'm like, I was considering myself as like bottom of the food chain, and they're like some sort of like my missus met Tiny Temper, and I'm thinking, wow, that's Tiny Temper, and you kind of like and the train guy Francis.
Oh yeah.
So I bumped into him, got a picture,
Was
and
it
then
Francois
yeah,
Delacroix or something?
I bumped into him and had a good conversation about it. And
How is he in real life?
very shy.
Is he?
Yeah, he's very shy. Yeah,
Yeah. Is he the same as what his videos look?
yeah, he's very
I've
posh.
I've
Yeah,
watched those videos and I thought, is that a performance?
yeah.
Or is
I
that...
think he, like me, I think when you create a public persona, you lean into it a little bit. Like when I'm acting on camera, I'm like, so today this is what we're going to do. You go into like a different part of yourself, like an elevated version. Like the Dwayne the Rock Johnson goes into the Rock, or I mean, we're very similar build and stuff. Me and him,
You do look
you
very
thought
similar,
that, didn't you?
Mark.
Yeah, same complexion. So people get us confused, but you kind of lean into that persona a little bit, and I think that's just what he does. I think naturally it's within him. I think me now, I'm very close to the Mark Marshall on camera. We're not too far away. There's still the funny side of me, and the Jack the Lad side doesn't really go on to camera that much. Just again because I'm scared of what people are like. I'm a landscaper. I'm a tradie. We all have banter. We all have jokes.
Of
we all take
course,
the piss
mate.
out of each other. That's starting to shine through a little bit now on camera, which people are liking. Like we've just had a lad on the video, Tom, and I started to call him Tommy Two T's because every time I asked for his help, he would add a tea in his hand. And I started joking about it on camera, and people are like, "Oh, I love that! Like it's real." Like so
Authentic,
for me,
mate.
yeah,
That's
for
the
me,
key
that's
word,
what
isn't
it's
it?
about.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people that kind of thought they were like someone, and you're like, mate, you was just a presenter. Like not just as if it's nothing, but you're a presenter. Just because I'm a landscaper, it doesn't mean that you're better than me. Like I've had it myself where we was going to get a TV show. We was in talks with people, and the presenter had 50k followers. So then I'm looking at that from a business point of view. If my social media is getting hundreds of millions of eyes every single month, and they're a presenter, they're the head of the show, why am I not getting the same money as that presenter just because I'm a landscaper? That doesn't work in my eyes. But it's took me to build that audience and have confidence in myself to say, yes, Alan Titchmarsh is renowned in our industry, and Tommy is renowned in our industry. But if you go and ask a 16-year-old lad who Tommy Walsh is or who Alan is, they probably won't know.
Oh, mate, a perfect example of that. Again, talking to my son the other day, and he said to me, "Oh, who are you recording with?" And I said, "You." He was like, "I've seen his stuff."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well," and I tried to explain to him. I said the same thing. I said, "It's great because you used to have these programs like Ground Force," and he just looked at me like,
"What you on about?"
"What?" Yeah,
So
but he knew you.
Yeah,
Hadn't got a clue what Ground Force was.
and that's not me saying that in
You got
like
to move.
is it a derogatory way where it's saying I'm someone or
Mate,
I'm not thingy. But what
it's generational.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is we're now putting it out there like the three people that we keep speaking about. People are seeing us and thinking they've got to take us seriously now because what's happening is Kev, Home Improvements. There's so many people that have got a large following now. They get thousands, hundreds, millions of people watching their content every single day. Every day, people are tuning in, they're swiping on your videos. We've got a video what we put on yesterday that's going viral that people are seeing. They're seeing that, and it's your content. And like you said with the TV, my agent was telling me that he's got some creators or people on TV, actors and stuff, that they'll get 50 to 100 grand an advert, and that advert will hit. They'll have to pay extra. So they'll make the advert, then they have to pay for it to go on the show. They could spend 200 grand on an advert. That money eventually is going to come into social media. It's going to have to because they're watching it. But then what happens is, I mean, we're privileged so much this year to work with some incredible companies that are realizing that the content creating is the way to go, and they're starting to bump the money up. But when you tell people that you're getting 10,000 a video, 20,000, 30,000 a video, they think, wow, you've really made it. But then the backside of that, with 8 staff, an editing suite, all the stuff that you have to buy.
I can't. I mean, 8 staff, mate, on today's wages, I can't imagine what your.
Oh yeah.
Well, I can imagine. I can imagine what your monthly wage bill is.
Yeah, that's my biggest asset, because I own everything else. I've built the money up on social media. I've put it all back into buying all the computers and the cameras and all the additional bits that we need. Mate. Oh yeah,
I love to see it though. I mean, listen, 2 years in, I remember studying business a while ago, and it's common knowledge that most new businesses don't make a penny in their first 2 years. Yeah. You're still in like launch phase.
Oh, 100%, that's the thing. Yeah. But for me, my missus says it like, I've got a bit of money in the bank, but for me, although yes, my intentions is to be rich one day, when I say rich, I don't mean money rich. I mean being able to go, I mean, this, you do need money for it, but being able, my dream is one day to say, do you want to go to Monaco and watch the F1 this weekend?
Freedom, mate.
Freedom to do whatever we want. But that's not going to determine what I do. I'm always going to do what some sort of giving back, because that's now my nature. My nature is to make people feel good.
Mate, listen, if you can do something you love, help other people, and make a shit ton of money at the same time, to me, that is like life's jackpot.
Oh, 100%.
Because
people do frown upon you though for doing well, and it's a shame, really. I see it as when people doing well, like when Brad first kind of hit 1 million on Facebook. I waited up that night, like I was waiting for him to hit 1 million so I could text him and say, "Well done."
Bold Builders, Brad.
No, Home Improvement, Brad.
Oh, right, yeah.
So when he hit it, I was buzzing for him, absolutely buzzing. I'm in a group. I can tell it because none of them will watch this because they don't watch any of my stuff. But my mates that I play football with, they secretly probably don't like that I'm doing well, because they've seen me progress. They took the piss out of me at the start for my stupid videos that I'd made on social media. You're still making them get grass cutting videos and taking the piss out of me, and now I'm going to the F1 and standing next to Brad Pitt and Lewis Hamilton. Who, do you know what I mean? It's not all bad, is it? But that's the byproduct of, yes, it's great to do that, because my passion, my sport of choice is F1. I'm not massively into football. I've always kind of loved F1 for probably the dynamic reason of it being so dynamic. Loads of stuff going on. There's loads of plates spinning at one time, and yes, it was always about the best car at one stage, but it's come away from that a little bit now. And idols.
I take it you didn't go to Vegas
this year. No, do you know I was going to go?
Was you?
Yeah, I was gutted really, because it would have been nice to go, but a company reached out to me at F1 this year and said, "Do you want to go to Vegas?" And I was like, "Yep." Obviously, like I'm a huge F1 fan, definitely. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But my personal goal one year is to do every race. Imagine that. And then I'd love to do Paddock Club, but I'd have to be really rich for that, or get invited. It's getting in with the right brands as well, because a lot of brands do stuff with F1 that do stuff with me. So we did a deal with Quadlock. Quadlock do a lot with McLaren. DeWalt always do a lot, but I'm a Makita guy, so it'd be a tough swap to go to kind of a DeWalt. I mean, all the brands. I don't hate any brand. I think because a brand technically is a business. Yes, you can get too corporate, and it becomes, if you get the wrong people, it doesn't become great to mingle with them corporations.
To be fair, Mark, listen, I mean, you can love a brand, you can have loyalty to a brand, use a brand. That doesn't mean that the other brands are shit.
No.
Do you know what I mean? There's more than one ways to skin a cat. It's the same in every industry. We've got it in our industry. There's masking tapes. I don't know why within the painting and decorating industry, mate. Tapes. But people get dead territorial. And it seems to be like people will select one, whether that's Q1, whether that's Tezza tape, whether that's Surette, and they'll pick one. And then they will say, well, I'll use this. Everything else is shit.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really.
No.
They're both good. But you can, I get the loyalty thing. I understand that.
Well, I'm a Makita guy. And when Milwaukee brought the impact driver out and it was like twice as powerful and drilled it in quite, I bought one and I used it. And the only reason I stopped using it is it kept breaking on me. But the Milwaukee do some incredible tools. DeWalt is obviously, people joke, don't they, and say it's a DIY brand, but DeWalt do some incredible stuff. I think you can, there's no, at that time, that what someone might do a better impact driver or they might do a more powerful what's called. But if you're happy with a brand, it doesn't mean that the other one's shit, does it? It's like
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
I use New Stone for more my landscaping stuff. Now I use them before I become a brand ambassador for them. But the reason I chose them, and I had loads of people wanting to speak to me and do it, but for them it was the service. I rang up, and I guess it is probably a bit sugar coated now because of what following I've got. Like if I rang a brand on this a company on this job that I've just done, and said, I am. She said, what name is it? I said, Mark Marshall, and she must have clicked on straight away by my voice and what my name was, and I ordered something, and it was there within 15 minutes. Like, we all know as tradespeople, if we order something, it's coming the next day and it's never on time. It's very rarely. So I get now that I'm in a privileged position where people know who I am and they'll try and get it to me. But Newstone didn't quite know who I was at first, and I ordered something and it was there next day. Really good. We started using them. People did message me saying, "Oh, I had something and I had something and it was 2 flags cracked out of it," or they'd have some sort of negativity. Like, no one's perfect. I'm the first person to tell them. I did a resin drive and said, I fucked up on this one. First time doing it on my own. But you learn, don't you? Like, no company's perfect. And for a company to hide their perfections, I would be like, I'd stay away from it, because if they're going to hide it, they don't want to know the problems. So for me, if you hold your hands up and say, yeah, it's as Rocky says, done it. It's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you get hit and you stand back up. Mate, that's what it's truly about.
That is where the growth is.
Yeah.
It's the mistakes, it's the failures. Like, you learn to embrace your failures. That's where your growth is. That's where your lessons are. That's where you learn from. You go, I did that, I'll never do that again. If you do everything right in life, to an extent, you're never going to grow, because you don't have to adjust.
No.
You're never going to learn.
I did a video where I glued a pergola leg down with CT1 and I got so much hate for it. Really? And do you know what the ironic thing is? Nearly 2 years on, and that it's still not moved. It's still not moved. It
sticks well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. But I had Alan Sargent ringing me up, Northern Landscaper ringing me up saying, you shouldn't do that. People are going mad, and it's not this, that, and the other. And Alan said to me, look, I don't not believe in CT1, but what would have failed in that situation is the porcelain, because it's layered. The top would have come off the porcelain.
Yeah.
So you really should have put a bolt through it just to give it an extra finger. Yeah. So yes, 100%. I was like, do you know what? I'll hold my hands up. I will put a bolt in it, but it's still not. There's still not an issue with it 2 years on. We've gone through loads of storms because of it, through obviously whatever it is, but the amount of hate that I got from it, from just doing that, but that come off the back of me going to a course with CT1 and them showing me how strong that product was. Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to test it. And because you put stuff on social media, people then just like, oh, you cowboy.
There's always somebody there to rip you down, mate. But listen, I mean, you know this anyway. You keep doing what you're doing. The things that I've picked up in this conversation, I like the fact that you've identified, because you mentioned earlier about stepping away from, the comments and things like that. You've identified along the way how it can mentally affect you, being in this new world that you found yourself in as a normal bloke with a normal upbringing. Yeah. You've now entered this whole different territory of life and it's great to see that you're embracing it, but it's brilliant to see that you've developed your coping mechanisms to deal with it. Yeah. Rather than just becoming overwhelmed by, I don't think any of us, and celebrities have been in that world for a long time, but none of us are really equipped to deal with the level of human interaction that you now get. We're evolved to a point of hunter-gatherers, like small tribes is our thing. I can't remember what the facts and figures are, but you're only meant to be able to remember like
150 people,
There you go. Now you're exposing yourself to 170 million. It's not in our genetic makeup to be able to
deal with that
mentally, cognitively process
I,
that
I just
amount.
think of it. I don't think of it as like when you think of it, it does get scary. Doesn't it? 170 odd people have watched your videos and thought some sort of emotion from watching your videos. I just think of it as like an almost fake number. Like it's not real. Although you're in someone's hand on someone's phone, it's not 170 million stood in front of you. Otherwise, it'd be like triple the population of the UK. So when you look at it
Yeah.
like that, it is
Exactly.
scary.
It's crazy, isn't it?
When
It's
it gets a
crazy.
bit like it takes you back a little bit is like when you do an event and loads of people show up. Like when I did Futurescape this year, that was the first time that someone had freaked out through seeing me. Like she thought I was famous. I was like, I'm not famous. I'm fucking landscape gardener. Like I'm normal. Like I'm just you. I'm you. I'm doing another trade. But she was like absolutely blown away by meeting me. And then when I started knocking on people's doors and they open it and they just absolutely go crazy. It like say it makes you feel good. Like it'd be wrong to say it doesn't. But that yeah, that's not the driving force isn't that big number anymore like it used to be. It used to be. I'll not lie and say, well, I've never thought about how many followers I've got. Like I've never boasted about it. Like it'd be wrong for me to say that because it isn't true. Like when you first get that million followers, you're like, oh my god, I've got 1 million followers. But then you quickly realize that unless you hit them in the right way, it doesn't mean anything. I went to an event with CT1 and no one even knew who I was, but that month I'd done 100 million views. So I was like, well, how is that even possible? So then you divulge it and dissect it and be like, okay, why did no one come and see me? Why? And it's because you're just making videos that people are watching just to numb the brain, ASMR.
Right.
Like they're watching it and they're thinking, I'm waiting for the outcome, and they get a buzz off the end of it.
Yeah.
They're not watching it because they like you.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that's for me. That's when it was a changer, and like, okay, I need to change this up a little bit and
mate.
create something
I
different.
can see. I can just talking to you for this short period of time that I've talked to you. You're going big places. I'm
Hopefully.
excited to see where you end up. I mean, if you can do this in 2 years, Mark,
Yeah,
what's it going to be like in another
5.
five? It's yeah, it's inspiring, mate. I've took inspiration from the conversation. I'm sure other people will. And to talk to somebody that's done so well on social media, it's great to hear those little tips and stuff that you've brought out. You've dropped out your coping mechanisms, which is absolutely brilliant as well, because they're really key.
Yeah.
Because it's walking into unexplored territories.
I think we just to touch on that, I get a lot of people that are asking me like that are dying to go viral. Like I know people within my niche that watch my videos and they're like, I want to do it because I want to go viral. They're kind of desperate in a way to make it happen, but it will never happen if that's your angle.
Objective, yeah.
If that's your objective, like if you know me on a personal level and people that come and work with me and know that I get stressed out because I want it to be perfect for the reveal, I want things to move forward. Like I'm sometimes the stressiest person to be around when we're on site, and the reason for that is when I watch them people drop their hands from their face and open their eyes, it's on me to make that as the best as it possibly can. That's the truth of it from the very core. It's not to get 1 million streams off that one video. It's how that person's going to react. So that's now my driving force. So that's because that's the truth. When people are watching the content, they're getting the same thing as I'm getting from it. So they're watching and like, wow, they're going to love this. Because the build up through the video of it coming together, us messing about and like the stuff we go through, the problems we have, they now knowing that I'm going to deliver something special for that person, they're waiting for that reaction because it'll make them feel good. And then they'll think, actually, I can get my garden done off this guy. Like there's
it's a connection, Mark, isn't it? It's that human connection that we're craving. The viewers, they'll connect with the person whose garden you're doing because they'll be thinking like you want to see their response, but they'll also connect with you because there's also going to be an element of the audience. They already know you because they follow you. They will be also watching you to watch their reaction. Because there's that investment of how it would make you feel if you don't get that reaction. Do you know what I mean? Or if they don't like it or whatever, I'm sure that would never happen. But there will be that element of the audience, that it's that connection you're creating the connections on human levels.
Yeah.
That's why people invest. That's why
I
people love
I
it.
said it on this one to Megan, the girl that we surprised, and Andy. When I pulled them out of the garden, I always thought, I'm shitting myself. Like, I don't know how long that will last for. The scaredness of what they'll think, because they don't know what I'm doing in their garden. It's a complete surprise. Like, I thought about showing them the plan.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, hang on, no, I'm just going to do it. So like, I'll say to them, what would you like from it? And they'll say, no, I'd love a little patio area. I'd love, like, what Megan wanted from a garden, I didn't do. But I'm thinking, a young couple, what do they want? Like, I know they've told me an idea, but then she said I would never have picked this from a garden. But when she come home from work, she was like, it's like a show garden. It's immaculate. And in my head, I'm thinking, this could have been so much better if I had a couple more days on it. Like, I'm constantly thinking the next one I need to make it better because I'm striving for that perfection. I'll probably never get it, but for them, that's the best garden they've ever seen. And it's their garden, and it's not costing them a penny other than watching my videos. So for me, like, I'm constantly going to move forward. I'm constantly going to get it. But I say every single time, this is the best garden I've ever done. Like I said, this is the best program. And I know the next one I'm going to say the same thing, because we're constantly trying to get better until we get the formula and it goes, that long video does millions of views. I'm thinking, if we make £1 million off a video, what can I do with £1 million? I could put a man cave under the ground. I could put water features in there. I could create some crazy stuff. And people are like, do you remember when he used to just put a patio in someone's garden? Now he's putting like waterfalls in it, and like bars, and like getting people in and paying tradespeople full price to come in. I don't want any discounts. Give me a full price. If that's going to cost 20 grand, that's costing 20 grand. I'm putting the sickest water feature in and getting the best designers in the UK and doing what they do at Chelsea Flower Show in someone's normal garden. Imagine that. And it's possible. Within the next couple of years, it's possible.
I love that, mate.
All I need is one video to go viral. And I've said the first video, every single bit of money that makes is going in the next garden. So whether I've got ideas of having a man cave underground and having something come and pop up out of the ground, like to get into it, like a secret cave, and like having it all connected to an Alexa and saying, Alexa, open my secret cave, smoke coming out, and like proper like Hollywood stuff.
Mate. Do you know what, though? The reality is the amount of money now that goes into and from social media, there's no reason why not.
No.
Because these companies, the likes of your YouTubes, your TikToks and Facebooks and all that, they have got so much money.
Yeah.
Like, you sit there saying £1 million, to me, that sounds like, wow. But to them, £1 million is a drop.
I said to my agent, I said, look, we've got a connect at Netflix. I said, go to Netflix, tell them 1.5 million, which is a small budget for them, and I'll create 10 episodes of something that they've never seen before. If I broke that down and said 150 grand, because it doesn't cost me that much to make the video, it probably cost me 5 grand to produce it. So if it's costing me 5 grand, my staff wages are probably, 20 grand a month. So realistically, my operation costs are 40 grand a month doing the actual gardens that I'm doing now. So imagine if someone gave me £1 million over a 12-month period to create 10 episodes, they would be the sickest gardens, because it's not about the profit for me, because I know that'll come in the end. Like, I can just say for the last 2 years of my social media life, right now I'm going to take in the income for myself, and I'll retire on that money. For me, it's not about the money right now. It's about what I can create.
Love that, man. That's a good place. Yeah. That's a good place. Mate, before we wrap things up, is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you wanted to mention?
No. I think we'll probably pick it up next time, won't we, mate? I think,
mate, yeah, definitely. I'd love there to be a next time. I want to pick this up with the rate that you're moving, because I can imagine such big things.
Well, even when I did the other podcast, considering where it was, the only thing I'd tell people watching this is, if anyone's thinking about getting into social media, start creating content.
Yeah, definitely.
Start creating content. It's free. If you've got a mobile phone, it's free. And you can literally change your life by making a video, putting it out there, and you can then become sat in this chair and talking to you, because without creating that content, doing something that's going to cost you a little bit of time, you've already got a phone in your hand, download a free app, make a video and get it out there. Because 5 years ago, if I was to sit there in a pub with you and say, I'm going to be a famous landscaper on social media, you'd go, how much have you had to drink, mate?
Yeah.
If I was to sit and say,
mate.
I clean pools for a living and I'm going to be one of the biggest creators in England, you'd say, whatever, mate. And we're sat there now in this modern age, creating content for millions of people to watch, all from creating something off your phone. That's where I started. Yes, I've got a team around me now and we're getting better at making videos, but it all started from a mobile
Started
phone.
with one video, mate. Journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
It literally
You know what
does.
I mean? So you got to get started. But, mate, not that everyone probably knows exactly where to find you, but just in case they don't, in case anyone's listening that this is the first time they've seen you, where do people find you and your content?
Just literally just put Mark Marshall in your search thing. I should pop up. If not, I think it's still Lawn Stripes and Hedges on Facebook, which is obviously the baby that started everything. But yeah, Mark Marshall or Lawn Stripes and Hedges.
Go over to YouTube, subscribe to Mark's channel if you don't already. Obviously, subscribe to the Talking Tradesman if you don't already 100%
as well. 100% go and drop this guy a follow.
And just before we do wrap up, a quick thank you to the Funky Peach, who are my guest merchandise providers. I've got a hoodie and a cap and a few bits and pieces to bestow upon Mark shortly. So thank you to you guys for your support. And as usual, thank you to everybody for listening. I'll catch you soon on the next one. Mark, it's been a pleasure.
Love you. Bye.